Hey everybody, I'm Jason from Fuzzlord, and in this video we're going to be checking out this first act DC-6 custom shop guitar. So we're going to talk a little bit about the first act company, the custom shop itself, the classic question of, is that a Walmart guitar? And we're also going to hear some sound clips. So if that sounds cool, stick around. I think you're going to like this video. If you're new to the channel, I really appreciate you stopping by. Every week we put out a video about guitars, pedals, or gear in some sort. So if that's your kind of thing, be sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any weekly content. So let's get started talking about this first act custom shop DC-6. A little bit about the company. Most people know first act guitars from being in Walmart or Target, or they did that guitar that was like a promotional item that if you bought this Volkswagen of a certain year that you got the guitar with it. It was in a bunch of commercials. So whenever people hear the first act name, they usually want to know, isn't it the Walmart guitar? What happened was, as a marketing mechanism for the company, in 2002, First Act decided to open up a custom shop in Boston. They hired some very talented luthiers. Some of them worked at the Gibson custom shop previously. I believe it was John McGuire that was the head of the operation there. And the idea is that First Act would make these custom shop instruments for artists out in the world. So they made guitars for people like Matt Pike of Sleep, Brent Hines of Mastodon. I believe they did one for Adam Levine. There's a whole bunch of other people. I think they did some stuff for people from Blood for Blood too, the hardcore band. So if you know of a famous musician that played a first act custom shop guitar, drop a comment below and let me know who it was. This guitar specifically was made in 2011 for Pete Adams, who was at the time in Baroness. So let me show you a picture of Pete playing that guitar right here. I found one. I'm not sure if this was when he was in Baroness. I'm assuming it might be when he was in his band Valkyrie. So what they did is they basically made these very incredibly nice custom shop guitars that they were putting out in the world and getting them in musicians' hands, like Brent Hines, Matt Pike, Pete Adams, and everyone who y'all are dropping in the comments right now, to help spread the name of the brand. It was just a really interesting marketing tactic. They did not ever have the idea that these were going to be like the main guitars that they offered to the public. They were very much wanting to sell lower end, affordable instruments at chain stores, and then get musicians playing the really nice stuff and like getting on stage with it out there. So I think the interesting thing is that they had artist and relations person kind of reach out to these people and ask them what kind of stuff they might want, you know? And people just came up with the coolest stuff, and the first act custom shop guys were just such top level luthiers. I stand by that. It's a shame that the shop isn't open. They're very well made guitars. I can't speak highly enough about the quality. I've been comparing this to other guitars that I have in my collection, like I've got a 79 Les Paul Standard, I've got some 90 Studio Les Pauls, I've got a PV with EGC neck, and just all these different cool guitars, and I just can't say enough good things about this one. So each guitar was handmade to these artist specs, so they get to pick the color, the pickups, all the different like cool stuff. So speaking of pickups, this guitar does not have the stock pickups in it. I did not get it with the stock pickups. These are bare knuckle nail bombs, I believe. And this originally came with the first act high output humbucker pickups. At least I think they're high output. Y'all know which ones I'm talking about. Let's go ahead and hear a couple riffs on this guitar through these pickups. When I first got this guitar, it was tuned to A standard and had big strings on it, 13 to 65. Let's hear what that sounded like. So when I got this thing, it was just tuned to sound brutal. It was really fun to play. I personally like playing in C standard, so I reset this guitar up with, what are they, 12 to 52 D'Addario jazz lights. I always use a wound third, that's just something I like. And now it's in C standard, so it's a really comfortable guitar to play. Let me go ahead and answer some of the questions that I can feel that are brewing right now. I believe it's a 25-inch scale. On the documentation that I've seen about these guitars, they were made to be 25-inch scale. When I measured it myself, it looked more like almost 25 and an eighth. So I'm not sure if this one was built with a slightly different scale length to accommodate lower tunings. It's very obvious to me that this guitar specifically was built to play in very low tunings for doom metal and stuff like that. Let me tell you why. The longer scale length, so the 25-inch scale, is going to have a little more string tension on the same sort of strings than a 24 3/4-inch Gibson scale. The other thing that's really nice about this guitar that kind of just makes it feel kind of tight, like the string tension and stuff, is that it is a string through body guitar. And the other thing is this has one of the really cool first act custom shop bridges on it. It's not like the normal Gibson stop bar tailpiece that the strings sit up a little higher. This is anchored more down to the body, so it's a steeper break angle across the bridge. And I'm not sure if we're going to be able to see it here, but the bridge is fluted on the rear side so that the strings have some clearance, like little hole, like channels cut out for the strings to pass through, so they're not bottoming out against the back of the bridge. I just noticed two things. Very nice string tension compared to my Gibson guitars with the same strings on them. And then also, I just feel like weird saying it, but this bridge and just the way there's no stop bar that's sitting up high, your hand just sits so nicely right there for palm muting stuff. It's just comfortable. So the only thing I'm worried about with this is, like, this is a proprietary first act custom shop bridge and tailpiece. Not all of the DC-6s came with them. A lot of them came with the more standard Gibson setup, the Nashville bridge with the stop bar. So I just really hope I never have to get it replaced, because it would be very difficult to do so. So now that it's in C standard and it's tuned up and I got it all dialed in, got a chance to adjust the pickups and stuff, let's hear some more riffs in C standard. right, so I hope y'all had fun checking out this first act DC-6 custom shop guitar. I'm curious to know, what did you think of this guitar? And who is one of your favorite musicians that played a first act custom shop guitar? I would love to get my hands on one of the Brent Hines guitars if I ever see one. Again, this was a 2011 DC-6 that was built for Pete Adams from Baroness, and I know people are going to ask me how I got the guitar, so I'm just going to give that little part of the story too. I know some of you are already been wondering this whole video, is that Steve Reese's guitar? Yes and no. This is not his main first act DC-6. He had one. He's had one for a couple of years now. He has been collecting these guitars for quite a few years, and that's how I got it, heard about them and stuff. And someone contacted him about the possibility of him buying the one they had. They're like, would you be interested in this? I don't think he really wanted it because, you know, he already had one, same color, same model. But it was like he couldn't, it's hard to turn him down, you know? And he basically he hit me up and was just like, hey man, like, I'm thinking about picking this thing up, but I just kind of want to know before I do, if I don't want it and decide I don't want it, do you want it? And I told him yes. Then a month later, I think he saw some other piece of gear pop up that he was interested in. He hit me up, and it was kind of like I had about 30 minutes to decide. He's like, do you want this? I'll sell it to you. But if you don't want it, you need to let me know, please, so I can put it on the market, because he only had a certain amount of time to get this other piece of gear, you know what I mean? So that is the story of my first act custom shop guitar. I feel very fortunate to have one. I've been playing guitar ever since I was a little kid. I've played so many guitars in my life. I love them all, but this one is really special to me. So thanks, Steve, and thank you for watching. Drop me a comment below, let me know what you thought, favorite musician of yours, where you're watching from, something you liked about this video, or a video you'd like to see in the future. I'm Jason from Fuzzlord, and I'll talk to you in the comments. Thank you to all of our supporters on the Patreon page. We couldn't do this without everyone's help, and it's just such a big help, and I really appreciate what everyone's doing. If you'd like to know more about the Patreon page and how you can support the videos we make here on the Fuzzlord channel, there's a link in the description. I also want to give a big shout out to our producer level Patreon supporters, David, Troy, TJ, and Rustin. I really appreciate what y'all are doing. Until next week, I'll talk to y'all in the comments, and I appreciate you watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and have a good week.